Here's an exciting little story. I just have been going through the Rolodex of memories because when we are shut down from normal activity and routine, we, reminisce on days of old. And that's a very strong characteristic. Those of us that can kind of push through anxiety and depression, of course, after we look at all of the parts within us that are kind of rearing their faces because they have a story to tell, we're allowed to integrate our system. And so we basically become self-led in order to respond instead of react. And you can look back on all the triumphs of your past and all the times where there were like really big doozy mistakes. And this was a good one though. So I was at Triathlon camp with some of the heavy hitters, all the multi-sports camps. So Paula Newby Frasier, she's the eight-time winning Ironman champ of the US. And no other person has surpassed that goal, and she's a female, so that's even better. But she was just this really like salt of the earth type of woman, and she's like, hey, you want to go for a bike ride? Now literally at this time I had a brand new bike, did not have a clue as to how to ride a bike, had the click-in shoes, and it took us about 10 runs where I'm clicking the shoe in and I'm pedaling, and then I have to come to a stop and turn around, and I did beautifully. I came to a stop and suddenly I couldn't get my foot out, and I'm like, I'm going down, and crash, and I have a really good scar because of it. Like, I like scars. So that battle wound was being nursed, and everybody's like, okay, well, you're thrown in like the wolves, let's go for a bike ride. So Paula Newby and I, we were on this bike ride together, and I'm asking her about her life because she's a superstar in the Ironman world, and she had this Buddha around her neck, and she's like, well, I just focus on the peace that this gives me. And I'm like, what, that fat man around your neck? Like, ew, what kind of motivation is that? That doesn't even make sense. Like, you're skinny and you're like all in shape, and this dude, like, what? I'm confused. And she's like, well, I didn't really always want to be an athlete. And I'm like, so what did you want to do? She's like, I wanted to sing, and I had an amazing voice, and I was in the choir, and it just wasn't acceptable in my family. And so I had to do what would earn me love. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I bet all of these parts inside of you were like, what is wrong with me? I have this natural gift, and why don't they love this part of me? And that's a perfect example of our parts of us that drive us instinctively to want love and acceptance. They come up and they react so that they get the response that they need. Well, her and I are going on, and I'm just like, look, I'm just sorry, but I'm down with Jesus, and I'm not gonna shove him down your throat or anything, but that fat man's not doing anything for you. I'm like, and I want to hear you sing right now. And this trek that we were on was about 2.5 hours. And she's like, well, I can't do it. I'm like, yes, you can, because you have amazing lungs, because you're the Iron champion of the world. So I want to hear you belt a tune out. So she was singing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So why don't we just pray that you get back to doing all the things you want to do, because you already got this handled. You licked it. Like, this is the thing that you did. It didn't necessarily get you the love and affirmation that you wanted from your family. So now you have to work within. So now tap in and start singing a song. Why? Because worship it's the yoke breaker. It's the thing that lines us up with heaven to find our divine destiny, the appointed time in which we're supposed to go forth and be ourselves, and we attract like spirits. And in this case, she needed Holy Spirit. So we were finishing out the bike ride, and she's like, well, you're gonna pray for me? And I'm like, yeah, I'm praying for you. Been the whole time. I'm like, but I asked that you just take off the necklace, lay it down for a little while, and if you've tried all the other stuff and it hasn't worked, you've worshipped Kona, because Hawaii has this big thing about honoring the island and all this stuff. I'm like, you've been there, done that. I'm like, the psychic mumbo jobo, all that stuff, it hasn't gotten you the peace, because your singing voice needs to be heard. So we finish up, and that night, me and my ex, we were invited to the head table. And she's like, can you open us in prayer? I'm like, yes, I can. Literally from that moment forward, for a year and a half following that, I kept in touch with this woman and all the crew of Multisports. You have Sean Welsh, who is the commentator for the Tour de France, and they would just reach out to me and say, I need you to pray for this, I need you to pray for this. Now, it was a short time after that where my email got crashed, and it was a time where I was highly upset because I lost contact with all those people. But they're still here in my heart because there was a connection that part of me made with part of her. It's like a commonality of understanding that we all want to be known and we all want to be understood. And that natural seeking of love and acceptance that we didn't get from our families or through performance, it can come from the man on high. And it's not seeking gods and being philosophical, and it's not even putting them down for what they believe. Because eventually, everything that we muster up the strength for to be really good at and become an expert in, it falls short. And in Ecclesiastes, it's all about everything's as if it's nothing. And, I tried really hard and that didn't work out. And you can have all the answers and the promises of this world, but we still find that we want something more. And whatever you are championing in your life, whatever really awesome instinctive gift that you have, there's still more. There's still more, and we still have time. There will be a great shaking in this world. Yeah, and your gifts will be tested, but don't think they're ever lost because they can't be revoked. Nobody can snatch out of God's hand what He's placed within your heart. And it's meant to connect. It's meant to draw other people into a deeper awareness, a spiritual awakening of everything that they have, because we all need to leave an imprint on this world. Now's the time.